Okay, now we're in chapter 5. This is day 2 of the chronological study. Let me give you some thoughts as I spent time in chapter 5. So we're now tracking the line of Seth. Seth replaces Abel. We looked in chapter 4. We got to look at verse 17. Actually, the whole chapter, we're looking at the line of Cain, that rebellious line. Now we're looking at the line of Seth that replaces the line of Abel that Cain murdered. This is the book of generations, verse 1 of Adam. And God created man. He made him in the likeness of God. So Moses just reiterates this rhythm that we already saw in chapter 1 and 2, that God is the creator. By the way, he created man. That's that Hebrew word. Bara, made him. All right. Both have, bara means to fashion, to make, to do. Asa means to do or to make as well. God and man can both Asa, but only God can bara. He's a creator. Also, sometimes remember that word bara sometimes means out of nothing. Although in this case, God created man. He created man from dust, but God created dust from nothing. But once again, he just reiterates that this God to the children of Israel, the Elohim, the powerful strength God, this powerful God, he's the one that created and made. Remember, this is important for the children of Israel to know as they go into the promised land. They received these 5 books from Moses, to be reminded that this Elohim, this same God, is the God that can provide all the strength that's needed to overcome the Canaanites and to take possession of the promised land. He says in the likeness of God, he created them. He made them in the likeness of God, male and female. He created them. This is how God has bara. He has made man, either man or a woman. That's it. Still, God's will. You're either a male or a female, and it is determined at creation. When you're created, it's determined what you are. He blessed them. He named them man. They were created. And Adam lived 130 years. He fathered a son in his own likeness after his image. And he named him Seth. So, after 130 years, Adam is fathering Seth. Not really sure what age Adam and Eve were when they fathered Abel and Cain. We don't have all that, but we know at 130 years he is fathering Seth. It's possible that he had fathered some other daughters in between Cain and Abel. That some commentators would, speculate that's possible. And then definitely, if you keep looking at verse 4, the days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. So I want you to understand that, so he had other sons and daughters for 800 years. After he had Seth, he still had more sons and daughters. What we have is people will take Genesis chapter 4 in verse 17 when it says Cain knew his wife and she conceived and bore Enoch. People will go like, where did his wife come from? Right here. That's where Cain's wife would have come from. Now there's some hold the slight possibility that he might have had some daughters in between having Seth, but at the least we can say for sure right here he had other sons and daughters. Now, like I said, this wasn't sin, this wasn't wrong. It'd be wrong today, but that prohibition was given by Moses in the Pentateuch here, and that was given in Leviticus 18, and so that wasn't yet a prohibition that was needed for that time era. I made some explanation about that in chapter 4 when we talked about that, but that's where it would have come from. And he probably had lots of children. Now, the historian Josephus says that he had 33 sons altogether and 23 daughters. Well, I really did a bad job with spelling daughters there. Here, let's see if I can correct my penmanship. There you go. Oh, yeah, there you go. Much better. So sons and daughters. So if that's true, that's quite a lot. And we can just imagine what happens when they multiply and how quickly the earth can start to multiply and the planet can start to grow in its population. But now we're looking, these are all in the line of Seth. We're looking at Seth's line. Cain is the ungodly line. Seth is the godly line. We saw in chapter 4 that with this godly line that people began to call upon the name of the Lord Yahweh. And by the way, this is important because Moses, writing this, he's tracking Israel's history from creation for God's people, even in the very beginning, all the way from Noah to Abraham. And so this is important. This is important history for them to have. This is going to help them walk in covenant faithfulness to God. Verse 5, thus all the days Adam lived were 930 years, and he died. You're going to see over in this chapter that he died, meaning that the fall has not been broken yet. It's still intact. Men are dying. Exactly what was promised to Adam and Eve, that you would die when you rebelled, when you took of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And you can see that the DNA of the fall, and it's getting passed on. It's passed on to Adam. Adam dies because of the fall. There's been no solution. Eve thought it was going to be Cain. Then it wasn't. Then maybe it could be Abel, but Abel got killed by Cain. Now we have Seth. So maybe it's going to be Seth. Well, let's see. Is Cain going to be the Messiah? Is he going to be the one? You can just hear Kizzy barking here. Live recording, folks. That's where it's all at. You can hear the rawness. This program doesn't allow editing in the middle, so we'll get more advanced as I do more of this. How to not have those disruptions. Let's get back to it. And Seth had lived 105 years. He fathered Enosh. Seth lives after he fathered Enosh 807 years, and he had sons and daughters. You live 807 years, you're going to have lots of sons and daughters. But notice this, thus all the days of Seth were 912 years, and he died. Seth, he was not the Messiah. The fall continues. Men die because of the sin of fall. Men die. Seth dies. Adam dies. Well, let's see. Enosh. This is the line of, this is the line of Seth. Let's see what happens with Seth's offspring. Maybe this is the Messiah. And when Enosh had lived 90 years, he fathered Kenan. Enosh lived after he fathered Kenan 815 years. He had sons and daughters, lots of sons and daughters. The earth is getting greatly populated. All the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. He died. This is what happens. Men will die as a result of the fall, but also as a result of the life of Christ. In Christ, we live. We live spiritually, and we'll someday live physically. When you look at chapter 5, you see death happening as a result of the fall. But in Jesus, we see life. And Kenan had lived 90 years. he fathered Mahalalel, and Kenan lived after he fathered Mahalalel 840 years and had other sons and daughters. People were living a long time. The environment before the flood was described by many to be more of like a greenhouse effect. The further we get away from the fall, the more the cataclysms of death and destruction continue to happen in mankind. And so we're in the early days. The environment's more pure. The curse of the fall hadn't had as many years to set in. People are still living very long. Kenan lives 910 years. He died when Mahalalel had lived 65 years. He fathered Jared. Mahalalel lived after he fathered Jared 830 years, had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. He came under the curse of the fall. He died when Jared had lived 162 years. He fathered Enoch. Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. By the way, just so you know, a lot of populating of the earth was happening. And by the way, these aren't the only people, okay? This is just what's being kind of chronicled for the line of Seth. But remember, Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters, so their other sons and daughters are more likely living hundreds of years, having lots of children. So there's lots of multiplication that's happening at a huge rate, a lot of people, okay? This is just tracking Seth, because Seth tracks us to the Messiah, okay? Tracks us to Abraham, tracks us to Noah, to Abraham, to the Messiah. Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. When Enoch had lived 65 years, he fathered Methuselah. Now, what's interesting, this godly line of Seth, in it is Enoch. This particular Enoch, there's an Enoch that comes from the line of Cain, ungodly Enoch. This is an Enoch that walked with God after he fathered Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters. A couple things interesting. This Enoch, he walked with God after he fathered, which makes me wonder, Enoch's walk with the Lord becomes a lot stronger as he has a son, which, I've seen that many times. Some men get very serious, which also tells you, although we're dealing with the godly line of Seth, not everybody's perfect in the line of Seth. And not all are the other lines that come from Adam and Eve, all their sons and daughters and the lineage that come from them, are they all righteous? In fact, there's a lot of unrighteousness happening outside of this line of Seth, so much so that we get, that's why we get the flood. That's going to be in chapter 6. Thus all the days of Enoch were 365 years. And interesting, Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. What? God took him? Yeah. God took him. Enoch had so much hanging in eternity. It was like the Lord just said, come on, it's time to be with me. So Enoch is one of few people who didn't experience death. I mean, we got the curse of the fall happening. And then we see God snatching by his grace. God takes him. A man who walks with God. And this is the type of person that I want to be, we all want to be, what a great way to be known as a person who walked with God. Isn't that amazing? Walked with God. God took him. God said, you have more hanging in eternity. You have more of your life, more of your identity is built in me than anything else. Why don't you come on and take me home? Well, go ahead and take you. I'm not even going to take you through death. I'm just going to translate you. Which, just some applications. Like, sometimes when we do lose people, sometimes it's like it's time for them to go be with the Lord. They've been walking with the Lord. Not all the time when the Lord takes you is it a result of disobedience. Here, though, there was no death. The Lord just took him. Very interesting, very interesting. But here's a man who truly walked with God. And what a great lineage this sets up, that Enoch walked with God. Because then it says, then Methuselah lived. When Methuselah had lived 187 years, he fathered Lamech. Now remember, this is a different Lamech, not the Lamech from Cain's line. This is Lamech from Seth's line. Methuselah lived after he fathered Lamech 780 years. He had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. When Lamech had lived 182 years, he fathered a son, and he called his name Noah. Now here's what's interesting. Godly line of Enoch has Methuselah, starts calling on the name of the Lord, grows so close to the Lord just takes him already to glory. Then Methuselah has Lamech. And from this Lamech, now remember, you've got Cain's, the Lamech that comes from Cain, polygamy, murder, and prideful bragging about murder. And this is a different Lamech. This Lamech fathers Noah. And Noah's name means rest, comfort. So here's more hope. This is, with each lineage from Seth, it's like maybe this is the Messiah, maybe this is the Messiah, maybe this is it, maybe this is the one that's going to give us that rest that God took at creation, that rest that Hebrews promises the people of God, the rest that we can have in Christ right now, the rest that eternity will be. He has a son, names him Noah, rest and comfort. And here's what he says, out of the ground that the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toil of our hands. What is he referring to? He's referring back over here to Genesis chapter 3, in verse 17 through 19, the curse of the fall on man, working by the sweat of his brow, by toil of his hands. He's going to bring us relief from this curse. This guy's going to do it. Noah's going to be the guy. He's going to bring us rest and comfort. The line of Seth has been hoping and praying. So, can you see the faith of this line of Seth? You see even what happens when a generation has godly men leading it. And Lamech lived after he fathered Noah 595 years, and he had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old. Noah fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Noah has 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and that'll take us into chapter 6 next.